All right, ladies and gentlemen, you're about to begin today's assignment. So today you're going to be tasked with going through several different kind of workstations and clues. Um, First, you were going to grab your worksheets that was passed out to you at the beginning of the class so that you can follow along with your questions and prompt for each station. Now, once you get through, you're going to have to go and create a timeline. The one thing I would suggest is that you write down important dates that you hear at each station. Once your timeline is complete, you're going to come and grab me so that I can review it and make sure it's complete, and then you can finish your last assignment at the "You Are Done" station. Good luck. The first person that wins, maybe get a cool prize, might just get a high five. All right, good luck. I am caring and compassionate. I wonder what the world would be like if there was no racism. I hear the laughter of children playing. I see people of all races coming together as one. I want unity for all God's children. I am caring and compassionate. I did receive degrees from Morehouse. I feel that God has a plan to end racism. I touched the hearts of millions when I walked across the bridge at Selma. I worry that more casualties will be had until racism ends. I cry for the girls who lost their lives in the church bombing. I am caring and compassionate. I understand that my "I have a dream" speech captivated millions. I say that one day the chains that hold communities back will be broken. I dream that one day all God's children will be judged not for the color of their skin. I led by using a nonviolent resistance. I was assassinated at a hotel in Memphis. I am caring and compassionate. I am caring and compassionate. I wonder what the world would be like if there was no racism. I hear the laughter of children playing. I see people of all races coming together as one. I want unity for all.
We stood for a more democratic society. Nonviolent organizers, we stood for the right of people to be human. Progressive justice.
Let the people decide.
The letters SNCC stands for the Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, commonly called SNCC for its initials. SNCC was founded in April 1960 to serve as an
So we'll just keep going. We'll just keep going.
Not this one?
It's gonna be too hard though. That's an opinion-based question.
I don't know.
Okay, so the March on Washington. The March on Washington took place on August 28th, 1963, with over 250,000 Americans descending on Washington, D.C., the nation's capital. This was called the March on Washington. This was a rally to support jobs and freedom. It was a turning point in the civil rights movement. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. gave his famous I Had a Dream speech here. The crowd marched from the Washington Monument to the Lincoln Memorial. 1 year after the march, the Civil Rights Act of 1964 passed. Now, why did this march take place? It took place because of the sweeping violence towards African Americans in the South. So in June of 1963, President JFK, John F. Kennedy, passed the civil rights legislation. People thought that if they came and
By the early 50s, segregation was frayed by the war and torn in spots where the court had acted. The white primary was outlawed. Housing covenants outlawed. Some graduate and law schools were forced to admit blacks. But the court was aware that the big fight was still to come. The schools, K through 12, white children and black in the same classroom.
Southerners assumed that if grade school kids were in a desegregated setting, they'd get to know each other and they'd get to date each other and then they'd marry each other. And that was the strongest taboo that the South held.
Led by Thurgood Marshall and other young lawyers like Robert Carter, the NAACP Legal Defense Fund was running or aiding cases all over the country. The court picked 5 and consolidated them into one set of arguments, forever known as Brown versus Board of Education of Topeka, Kansas. As oral arguments,
So we're going to discuss very briefly Maynard Jackson. In 1973, Maynard Jackson made history when he became elected as Atlanta's mayor. He was the first African-American mayor of Atlanta. However, he was the first African-American mayor in any major city in the South. As mayor, Jackson made sure that the minority businesses got got a fair share of the work and from the city's contracts, and this often upsetted the established white business owners. However, at this point in time in Georgia's history, no company was being contracted if you were an African American ran company. So Maynard Jackson really supported the businesses in that aspect. Also, under his leadership, MARTA was constructed and began running, and he also added an extra international terminal to Atlanta's Hartsfield International Airport. Now, as of 2003, the airport has been changed to Hartsfield-Jackson International Airport to pay homage for Maynard Jackson's success. All right, next we have Andrew Young. Now, Andrew Young became well known as a civil rights activist and aide, kind of like Martin Luther King Jr.'s right-hand man. In 1972, he won a seat in Congress and was the first African-American representative to the House since Reconstruction. So we're talking over 100 years. In 1977, President Carter appointed Young to be America's ambassador to the United Nations. He succeeded as Jackson as Atlanta's mayor. So you have to think about that. That's two African-American mayors back to back. He also served two terms as mayor, where he increased international investment and he brought the 1988 Democratic Convention to Georgia. He ran for governor in 1990, but lost to Zell Miller. He also played a key role in bringing the 1996 Olympic Games to Atlanta. Okay, so the 1946 governor's race, probably the most controversial race that you'll hear of in any type of political setting. First, we're going to start out with a gentleman by the name of Eugene Talmadge. He was elected as governor for the fourth time. However, he died. So many of his supporters knew that he was ill, so they wrote in his son, Herman Talmadge's name. The state legislature chose between the two people with the largest number of write-in votes, and Herman Talmadge won because people were writing him in. So this is where the controversy starts. A gentleman by the name of Ellis Arnold, who was the governor at the time, did not want Talmadge to win because he would continue his father's harsh and racist policies. Arnold resigned so that the Lieutenant Governor Melvin Thompson could take over. So when Herman Talmadge found this out, he took over the governor's office by force and seized the mansion, while Thompson set up an alternative governor's office in downtown Atlanta. Now, the Supreme Court finally stepped in and ruled that Thompson was to serve as acting governor until a special election could be held. So this is a very, very, very controversial part of Georgia history. But in the end, 2 years later, Herman Talmadge would win another election for governor, but we'll discuss that at a later topic.
Push it in a little bit.
Describe, analyze, and write down the meaning. So, gather the materials at your table, put the information in chronological order, match the information with the correct time. There will also be fill in the blanks at each station. Once you have completed, get Mr. Coleman so you can be the first ones done.
You're putting them.
Am I supposed to line these up with these?
Yes. You match the dates to the.
Just ask a question though, and there's no answer.
No, the answer is going to be like through the videos that you watch.
So I can run back and look at the videos?
Yeah.
Or
just use the sheets.
This group peacefully protested in the South during the Civil Rights era. This SNCC, which was, I don't know. The flag was controversially made. That was the state flag in. Oh, wait, I got these in order. (1956). So that's this one. Governor's race was that one over there. And that was 1946. So that one's first, and then this one. Then somebody helped bring the Democratic Convention to Georgia. That was one of those guys. It was, I think it was Andrew Young.
Mm-hmm.
And that was in sometime. I don't know. Okay. Blank had over somebody people attend the most notable speaker of March on Washington. Which was this one. When he became the president of the United States, Jimmy Carter. So he was last.
Mm-hmm. All right, looks good.
Congratulations, you finally made it through the end. You went through about 8 different workstations and developed a timeline. I really hope that you got a real sense of the the civil rights movement, what and how this era impacted our society. Good job. See you soon.